Hey, it's Jeff Hyman, your startup therapist, and I'm here with a friend that I've known, how long, John?
It's about 21, 22 years. Yeah.
That's pretty scary. John Younger, recruiting legend, guru, maybe God in the Bay Area.
Let's drop that expectation way down.
And John, it's great to connect with you on this. I'll briefly introduce you. John Younger, you founded, is it 3 or 4 significant recruiting companies?
4, and I've started 5 companies total in my career.
Got it. So not only an entrepreneur, you've sat in the driver's seat as founder, CEO. You also know recruiting inside and out from more than 2 decades in the business. And you're in the Bay Area, so you're in the heart of the war for talent.
Right.
So it would seem to me like you're uniquely qualified to talk about the things that our listeners are most interested in. Why don't you give us just the 30, 60 seconds on the 2 businesses that you now lead or founded, Okolo and HireMojo.
So Okolo is a recruitment process outsourcing company. It basically makes it possible for a company to either extend its internal HR function and recruiting capabilities, or in some cases, some companies choose to have us replace the whole thing. It's the bodies, on-site, off-site, highly scalable, highly elastic, and about half the cost of what they'd spend for an equivalent internal recruiting department.
Got it.
On the other side is HireMojo. This is the first hiring automation platform specifically designed for the non-recruiter.
Got it. So the hiring manager themselves.
Hiring manager or the assistant to the hiring manager. Now, HR loves it. It does all the tracking and everything, but it makes it possible for someone with 0 recruiting knowledge or talent to out-recruit most senior recruiters in spite of themselves.
So does that mean the days of the human recruiter are numbered, or is your premise that different roles, different levels will gravitate to different types of...
Yeah. You know, the small company, when you and I started companies, I don't have a big HR function. I don't need a big HR function. Right. And frankly, I want my managers to do the work.
Yeah.
When we're 1,000 people, we'll have HR.
Yeah.
So it's just different audiences.
Got it.
This makes it possible for that 2 or 3 or 400 person company to sign in, get great job descriptions, press launch, have it go find people, direct source, interview them, and literally all they need to do is make decisions. And the software does all the follow-up, closure, tracking, scheduling, everything that a world-class recruiter would do.
Using social networks and the social graph and all that kind of stuff.
It makes it easy and for about 95% less than they're probably spending today.
So maybe that's a good place to start then, John, because it would seem to me that you know a lot about how the internet, things like LinkedIn and other information sources, have really reshaped the recruiting process. If I'm a hiring manager, a CEO of a startup, a head of marketing of a private equity-backed company, what role does LinkedIn play in the process in these other types of services in finding candidates?
Yeah, I'm going to put LinkedIn in this a broader group of social connection, you know, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn would have issue with me lumping them in, but we'll get over that. At the end of the day, it's all about finding the right person who can do the work I need well, that I get along with, who's open to my opportunity right now. So it's a multivariate equation. What LinkedIn has done, along with the others, is they've made it possible to get to almost everybody with a click or 2.
I can't tell fit, and I can't tell everything about their background. I can certainly tell if they're worth a conversation, speaking to.
Right. What you can tell is what they've done.
Yeah.
You don't know how well they've done it, and I don't trust, personally, I think most of the recommendations are, you take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
You don't know the personality fit necessarily. You don't know whether their availability is high or low. And frankly, we have something called the HireMojo theory of relativity, which is that we're all temporaries.
Right.
It's just a matter of degrees. And on one, you know, at 10 a.m., your manager's a raving lunatic and you're like really open to a new job. And then by noon, the person got fired, so now you're definitely going to stay. And then by 4 p.m., they get rehired and promoted, and now you're really looking. And that's all in one day.
Right.
And that's, I think, part of what the social networks open the door to. But at the end of the day, and this is where you can even look at LinkedIn's revenue mix. LinkedIn has become a great tool for recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
As a CEO, I don't have time to sleuth through people who don't know me and hope that they'll talk to me.
They're probably in there, but I just don't have the time to do it.
Exactly. Of course they're in there. And again, you can get to almost anybody.
Right.
But that's where the recruiters come in. And again, LinkedIn becomes a recruiter tool.
Right.
Great, fantastic. But as a CEO or as a line executive, it's important that I look at this recruiting thing more personally. And I think this is where you're going to see a shift. And I want to back up a little bit, if I might, Joe. If I'm hiring, it doesn't matter how well I can connect other people if I can't articulate in absolute terms why the right person is going to care and fit.
What is the employer value proposition? Why
Not
should
the
this...
employer, the manager. It's down to a personal level.
Got it.
You know, every job is as unique as the person to whom it reports, right? I've never met a template.
Right.
The recruiting industry thinks in terms of templates, but the real hiring happens in terms of one-on-one connection.
It's the human relationship. I think I saw a study that, and tell me if you agree, that like half of people's job satisfaction is their relationship with their manager or something like that.
It's actually more than half. And the number one reason people stay or leave is that relationship.
Right. So it's as important as the company, the role, the job, the tasks.
Exactly.
Got it.
Even compensation is second or third to that.
Wow, that's incredible. I think a lot of people forget that.
Right. And they think if I just pay this engineer more, they'll be happy and stay. But no, if they don't feel that connection, they're gonna look.
Have you heard these stories about, because of the social network that you're describing now, making it so accessible to find candidates? I've heard these stories about people that are pulling out of LinkedIn because they're besieged by headhunters and job inquiries. They're just tired of it, especially software developers. Is it starting to actually reverse itself?
Well, I'm laughing because I wrote a white paper now 6 or 7 years ago about how recruiting has the power to crush social networking.
And it seems like it may be. Is it happening or no?
I think it is. I mean, think of in very tangible ways. If somebody pings you 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times a day, you're going to turn off whatever that is if you're not interested.
You just get overwhelmed. Right.
Yeah. Well, especially when many of those outreaches are done by people who don't know the 4 key ingredients of the job. They have to know the 4 key ingredients, and this is really what has to...
You're going to tell us what the 4 are, I assume.
Oh, I'm happy to.
Please.
The first is what needs to get done by when.
To the task at hand.
The actual problem to be solved.
Yep.
Not, hey, we're a great company.
Yep.
No. Why is this job
Are we launching a new product? We need financial analysis on this business, whatever.
Number 2, how are you going to quantitatively know you have a top performer?
Got it.
You know, it's all I'll know when I see it. That doesn't cut it.
Right. So after a year, this person will have done X, Y, Z, and we can objectively say they rocked it.
Exactly. Okay. And you'll even say that in the description. I need somebody to come in, take the new product, and guide it through inception to a $10 million revenue run rate in the next 12 months.
Got it.
Number 3, why would the right person want to work for you?
And like you said, a lot of that is the manager.
Right. But this is where you talk about, you're going to love this job.
Right.
Because I'm going to give you the autonomy, or I'm going to give you the tools, or you're going to work with a team like this.
Do candidates believe that stuff when they read it? Even if it's true, it just sounds like platitudes, doesn't it?
I think it depends on how you frame it. I'll give you a case in point after I get to number 4.
Yep.
But I think it's how you frame it. Number 4 is, what are the common attributes of your rock stars?
Got it.
Hard skills, soft skills. What do they do for fun? You know, for example, one particular technology company, they were just really big into ping pong.
Right.
Had nothing to do with the role. Had everything to do with the culture.
You're not going to fit if you don't play ping pong.
Well, actually, it was more like, if you love ping pong and this kind of technology, you need to come talk to us.
Got it.
As the job title. And I don't know of a single recruiter that would put ping pong in the job title.
Yeah,
and yet,
that's...
if you do that, it's inherently viral to the community you seek to engage.
What you're describing almost starts to sound like marketing. You're talking about targeting and creativity in the way that you present it. This is almost not HR, it's marketing and sales.
It is marketing and sales, but it's also genuine. You know,
well, marketing has to be, I don't mean self-promotional. Good marketing and sales does come from a place of authenticity. Just telling the story.
Well, I have people in marketing who say, I'm in marketing, I lie for a living. So when you think about it, I'll give you an example. This is for an intern.
Yeah.
The company was looking for interns, and the single most effective job description, which, by the way, is available to anybody who wants any job description or any successfully job filled on HireMojo homepage.
Yep.
But it was for an intern. The title was intern, overworked and underpaid. That was the job title. And it talked about how we're going to give you a chance to do this and this and this. We're going to work you to death, and we're going to underpay you.
And I would predict they got a ton of responses because they were honest.
A ton of responses, and so many of them were, thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of genuineness is lost. I think when the recruiting industry oftentimes thinks in terms of job marketing, they think of these platitudes and these squishy words and lots of adjectives that, to your point, that's not going to cut it.
It's more analogous to almost like travel or cruise or adventure marketing, where you see these ads that they create a picture of what it's going to be like to take this Disney cruise or take this African safari. They paint the picture of the experience you're going to have. It's experiential.
Well, I think there's an element to that, but I think it's a slightly variant of that, because when you look at those brochures, they're all great. They don't show you the people who got ate by the...
Yeah, the downside, right. Or the people that got nauseous on the cruise ship.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think this is really more of talking to a friend at a bar.
It's got to be balanced.
It's got to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, when we filled Carl Icahn's CIO job, we didn't say this was all rosy. No, this is going to be a real hard-charging, difficult role. But then the benefit is you're going to manage these billions of dollars of assets, and the right person literally came through a social network in 3 days.
Right, because it spoke to them.
Exactly.
Let's fast forward a little, John, from kind of the candidate identification phase to the interview, the all-important interview. I did the math just in my head, and it would seem to me like combined your companies have interviewed tens of thousands of candidates, maybe 100,000, who knows. What questions have you learned are predictive of success versus are a waste of time to ask, regardless of function or level or what? You know, it seems to me like many people suck at interviewing, right?
Right.
It's almost a waste of time. What have you learned are the killer questions that you can't afford not to ask?
So I'm going to break this into 2 pieces. One is, think of this as a marketing funnel. So now you have this compelling, accurate description. Now you market it broadly and deeply.
Yep.
Way more broadly than most people would think to, because you don't know when that person how they're going to run into it. Now you get to the first piece of the 2, which is the initial questions, which can be asked online and can be ridiculously effective and accurate.
Right.
It goes back to those 4 questions. How are you going to quantitatively measure this person's success? And I'll give you an example for a marketing VP or a marketing manager.
Yep.
Let's say you're a software company and you want to get an increase in online leads, touchless leads that turn into revenue.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the questions, to your point, is something like, I have run the following number of online marketing campaigns that have yielded the following number of closed deals in the last year.
So you're quantifying it.
You're quantifying it. Because if you ask, are you good at marketing? Everybody's going to say yes.
Of course.
But when you ask a question like that, they can still lie, of course. But when you ask it that way, it gives the right people an opportunity to brag.
And it gives the wrong people a second thought on, geez, if I make this up and they do reference checks, they're going to find out I'm full of it, right?
Exactly right. And then you put that in a framework, which we do in HireMojo, of the actual scoring and weighting mathematically and in a way that does it automatically while you're at home having adult beverage. You literally can distill through 1,000 people in a day, and just that one question of many, but will give you a really keen sense of this person's worth talking to.
What other things are predictive in addition to asking them to quantify their achievements or their performance?
Okay, so another one might be the kind of work environment I prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give a right or wrong answer, just give a range. So it might be command and control. I like when there's really clear leadership, to I really prefer having more latitude to direct how I unfold, how I manage my day.
Yep.
And hold me to the metrics, but basically get out of my way. Those are the 2 kind of extremes.
I like team meetings, or I like working at home alone, those types of things.
Right.
Got it. That'll help you on the fit question more than the skill set question.
So the second part, does that answer your question?
Yep.
The second part is when you're in a face-to-face interview.
Okay.
And if you
so you're describing, sorry, John, back up. You're describing pre-qualifying questions to see if it's even worth the time with that candidate.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. Okay, so now...
oftentimes missing, like every applicant tracking system on the planet has the ability to have questions, but they lack some major things. One, what questions to ask that are meaningful like you're asking. And most recruiters aren't trained and don't have the talent to develop them, nor do the managers.
It's also hard when you're recruiting for all these different functions and levels and industries.
Exactly. Right. Whereas the manager will know.
Right.
And given a framework within which to ask them with a mathematical structure behind them that does it all online, literally you start to engage candidates rather than repel them.
Got it. Okay. So now we've got the right people in front of us. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So we've asked those qualifiers. We've got the right 10, 20 people in front of us.
And I want to paint one other piece of this picture, which is you wrote a love letter, not a job description. The love letter reached the right person. The right person clicked on I'm going to begin the interview online rather than a screen but actually enter an online interview. Now for you, the hiring manager, these 8, 10, 12 questions where I can kind of brag about what I've done and tell you what I've done.
Yep.
You've just pulled me in stronger rather than repelled me.
Got it.
That's very atypical of anything online where questions are asked, but that's how you have to structure if you're going to do it that way.
Got it.
Now is the face-to-face. I'm going to give you one of the techniques, and I have many, but this particular one, if used, anyone watching this video, I would love for you to tell me if you find information that no other person on your interview team finds. And it's a real simple technique.
This is the magic question. This is the magic technique.
Magic question.
Better write this down, guys.
But write this down. When you meet with the person, I set the stage by saying I think interviewing is inherently unnatural. We have to both make big decisions with very limited time and data. And it's amazing how people will literally go, yes.
They take off the mask.
They take off the mask. I rarely do this in a room or sitting down. I'll go for a walk or walk over to a coffee shop, do something like that. Then I'll tell them that I want to do, basically, I want to ask them questions to see how they think rather than what they've done. Mm-hmm. And the simple technique goes like this. I would like to go through everything back to college and ask you 3 questions. I don't care what you did in any of the jobs, but the 3 questions are, how did you find the job? What did you like about the job before you started? And why did you leave? That's it. I don't care if the person has had 50 jobs. I'll do that back to college.
Yep.
Now you think about that. So how'd you find a job? And I'll give you an example of one guy I interviewed. I found it through Craigslist, right out of college. Okay. What did you like about the job? Great career opportunity. Why did you leave? My manager was just not somebody I can get along with. Next job. How'd you find it? Oh, monster posting. What did you like about it before you started? Great career opportunity. Why'd you leave? My manager.
So the question becomes, after 6 of these, is the problem him or the manager?
No, after 3 of these, the candidate actually told me, it sounds like I have a problem with management. Let's talk about that.
Right.
Literally, inside of 4 minutes, I had zeroed in on the fact that this guy took no responsibility for anything.
All of that makes sense, but John, what about the missing piece, which is their performance and what they did and how they did it? How is that not important?
It isn't that it's not important, and this doesn't replace that. Have other people on your interview team focus on those things.
Oh, so you do need to cover them.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay. How would you approach this? In fact, some of that I even do through the second stage of an online interview where it's like, give an example of how you're going to solve this problem.
Got it.
Attach a marketing plan that you think would work or one that you've done. But, yeah, you still need to do that.
Got it.
But keep in mind that people hire for skills and fire for fit.
That makes a lot of sense.
Most of the time.
Yep.
So this is basically saying get the fit thing nailed. Because you and I both know, if you have somebody who is smart and really fits and the 3 things, drive, curiosity, and ethics, are the 3 key things I look for.
What were the 3? Drive, curiosity, and ethics. Right. Okay.
So drive is something you can't teach someone. They're either driven or they're not.
It's in their DNA. Yep.
It's in their DNA, and it's not binary. And someone's interpretation of their drive, and so one of the questions I'll ask there is, give me an example of something that demonstrates your drive. And, you get everything from, hey, I got up from the Super Bowl and got everybody popcorn. That's their manifestation of their version of drive.
Yep.
And somebody else won a medal at the Olympics.
Right.
It's just curiosity is interesting to me. Curiosity is a proxy for both raw intellectual horsepower and humility.
I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything.
That's right.
And I'm smart enough to be able to formulate the questions to find out more.
and I'll go research them.
Got it.
Right. I'm not passive in my
Right.
my view of how I understand things.
Got it.
And then, of course, ethics, again, it's one of those that we'd like to all believe it's binary. It's not. And in some companies, they don't care. In other companies, if it's a bank, there are certain things that really do matter. But those are the three primary things that I look for when I interview people.
How many, in most cases, how many candidates should we interview to make sure we find our winner amongst the group? Is it 3 people, 5 people, 10? I know it varies, but in general, what's the least number of people that we should see?
Well, it depends on how many hires you're making, right?
Just one, for one person, one position.
One person. So in general, I like to interview at least 2, maybe 3.
Okay. So it's a pretty short list. You've done a lot of the screening up front.
Absolutely. Well, and just for those people who are on the receiving end of recruiter support, not recruiters, let me give you a hint about what recruiters will do. They will give you 3. They'll give you the worst person first.
Yep.
The best person second.
Yep.
And the middle person third. So then you'll back up and go, hey, the middle person was the best. They will always tee up the 3 in that order.
Dirty little secret, huh?
It's a dirty little secret.
Let's move so we covered how to find the candidates, how to pre-screen them, interviewing, and now let's move in just a couple minutes we have left to reference checking. Tell us what you've learned in terms of best practices on reference checking, not only how to conduct them right, but when to do them.
So there are other tools available today for reference checking that didn't exist even a decade ago. So, for example, the Checkster, Checkster type company, where if you don't know what that is, basically you initiate a request from the candidate. They fill in 5, 6, 8 people they've worked with, they've worked for, that have worked for them, and the technology goes out and asks them questions and then consolidates it all into a report.
It's like a survey monkey for reference checks.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I find those to be valuable. I find that they can provide a pretty good comprehensive view. Now, that doesn't replace picking up the phone and calling people.
You're not saying don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing with reference checks, always, without exception, reference their current manager or their most recent manager.
But how do you do that, John? They're currently working. They're chief marketing officer. Their boss doesn't know that they're looking. How do we do that?
It's a great question. So you basically set the stage with them to say, I'm going to call your manager if you accept this offer. I want to be sensitive to the fact that I don't want to, but if you and I come to terms and you accept, you are coming here. Know that after that, I'm going to call your manager.
So you agree not to pull the offer if you get a horrible reference check?
Right. It's basically, if anything you told me is wildly off, then the deal's off. But
got it.
And the reason I do that, Jeff, is I've been burned a few times. Well, no, don't check my current manager because I'm looking and they don't know. And as it turns out, they were getting fired.
Got it. But you make it clear, I'm going to check the reference after you sign on the dotted line.
Right.
And we're fine unless I hear some fundamental disconnect between what you've told me.
Exactly.
Got it. And how often does it happen that you actually pull the offer after the fact?
When I started doing that years ago, never.
Got it.
Because the people who had bad relationships with their manager just fessed up right then.
They opted out. Got it.
This is a problem because let me tell you what really happened, and I stole some money, and whatever.
Got it. I understand. So you check the references late in the process, and you insist upon their current manager.
Absolutely.
Do you check references for more than one candidate? In other words, is it an input into your decision, or do you make your decision on the finalist and then check references to validate that decision?
I actually, it depends. If you have somebody who clearly stands out, then I don't necessarily feel the need to check the references for the second or third place candidate. If I'm not quite sure, I'll absolutely check.
So on the margin as a tiebreaker.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Because it is time consuming.
Right. It's time consuming and expensive, and it can make it difficult to move things quickly.
Got it. Last question, and then we're going to wrap up. When do you talk compensation? To avoid surprises, when in this whole cycle do you bring that up?
So in that initial screen, if you will, initial online interview, I will always ask a compensation range. My desired compensation, annual, whatever, is X.
You're not asking what they currently make.
Well, that's the second question.
Oh, okay.
Which is, here's my desired, and here's my current.
And you find people will provide that?
Oh, yeah, every time.
Well, it just surprises me. Like, why would they be so forthcoming about their current comp?
You're giving ranges.
I see.
So you're not asking for an absolute.
Got it.
And I've had people say, my expectation is $150,000 a year. My current compensation is $60,000.
Got it.
It's like, then that's a conversation for us.
Yeah, I understand.
I like to have those conversations early. No surprises.
Right. Otherwise, you're wasting all this time, and then you find out you're off the mark. Got it. John, this has been so insightful. How can people learn more about HireMojo or get in touch with you?
Sure. My email, jyounger@hiremojo.com. That's HireMojo.com. My phone number is 415-755-1202. Go to HireMojo.com, HireMojo.com. Fill your jobs. And I want to tell you, if you don't mind, why we exist.
Yeah, please.
There's over 5.5 million open jobs in the United States right now. Half of those have been open 3 months or longer. We think that's criminal.
It's awful.
So for a couple $100, go to HireMojo and fill your job.
Unbelievable. I love the name, too, HireMojo.
Thanks.
That's great. John, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, talk soon.